Ray Hunter loved his motorcycle more than anything else in his life. It was a big black Harley with chrome parts that shined in the sun. Every morning, he would clean it and make sure it looked perfect before he went for a ride. Ray was tall and strong, with a thick beard and arms covered in tattoos. People in town knew to stay out of his way. On this sunny Tuesday morning, Ray put on his leather jacket and boots. He tied a bandana around his head and put on dark sunglasses. He looked at himself in the mirror and smiled. He thought he looked tough and cool. No one would mess with him today. Ray started his motorcycle with a loud roar. The noise made birds fly away from nearby trees. He liked that his bike was so loud. It made people turn and look at him. Ray drove fast through his neighborhood, not caring that the noise woke up people who were still sleeping. As Ray rode along the coast road, he felt free and powerful. The road was almost empty at this early hour. The ocean stretched out beside him, blue and endless. The salty air filled his lungs as he sped up, pushing his bike faster and faster. After about 20 minutes, Ray slowed down as he reached a small beach area. He was getting hungry and thought about stopping for breakfast. That's when he saw them. Two beautiful golden retriever dogs playing on the sandy path near the beach. They were running and jumping, chasing each other without a care in the world. Ray noticed a man standing nearby with his back turned, talking on his phone. The man was bald and wearing expensive-looking clothes. He seemed busy with his call and wasn't watching the dogs closely. The dogs had no leashes on them. Something dark stirred in Ray's mind. He had always been the kind of person who enjoyed causing trouble. His friends called him a prankster, but most people just thought he was mean. Ray slowed his motorcycle even more and turned toward where the dogs were playing. This will be funny, Ray thought to himself with a smirk. As he rode past, Ray stuck out his heavy boot and deliberately kicked at the dogs. His boot hit one of the dogs on its side. The dog yelped loudly in pain and surprise. Both dogs jumped back in fear, their happy play ruined by this sudden attack. Ray laughed loudly as he sped up again. He looked back briefly to see the dogs huddled together, scared and confused. The man on the phone had turned around now, rushing toward his pets. Just a stupid joke, Ray said to himself, still laughing as he rode away. Those fancy dogs need to toughen up anyway. What Ray didn't realize was who owned those dogs. He didn't recognize the bald man in the expensive clothes. If he had, he might have thought twice about his cruel prank. The man was Jason Statham, the famous action movie star known for playing tough, dangerous characters who never let anyone get away with doing them wrong. Jason Statham knelt next to his dogs, checking them carefully for injuries. His face grew dark with anger as he watched the motorcycle disappear down the road. He had seen the rider's face clearly. He had seen the license plate on the bike. And Jason Statham never forgot a face. "It's okay, boys," Jason said quietly to his dogs, his voice calm despite the rage building inside him. "That man thinks this was funny. Let's see if he's still laughing when I find him." Jason pulled out his phone and made a call. He had friends in this town, important friends who could tell him anything he needed to know. Within minutes, he would have a name. By the end of the day, he would have an address. Ray Hunter had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He just didn't know it yet. Jason Statham was a man of action. After making sure his dogs were okay, he took out his phone and made 3 quick calls. The first call was to his friend Tom, who worked at the local police station. "Tom, I need a favor," Jason said in his deep voice. "A man on a black Harley just kicked my dogs at Sunset Beach. I got his license plate number." Tom didn't hesitate. "Give me the number. I'll have a name for you in 5 minutes." The second call was to his security team. Jason was famous, and he always had people who helped keep him safe. "I need 2 of you to meet me at my house in an hour. Bring the SUV." The third call was to cancel his meetings for the day. Some things were more important than work, and teaching a lesson to someone who hurt his dogs was definitely one of those things. Jason gently put his dogs in the back seat of his car. They were still shaking a little, but they seemed okay. He gave them each a treat and patted their heads. "Everything will be fine," he told them softly. "No one hurts my family and gets away with it." Meanwhile, Ray Hunter had no idea what was coming his way. After his joke at the beach, he rode to his favorite diner for breakfast. He sat at the counter and ordered eggs, bacon, and coffee. "You look happy today, Ray," said Sally, the waitress who had known him for years. Ray laughed. "Had some fun on the way here. Some rich guy's fancy dogs were in my way, so I taught them a little lesson." Sally frowned. "What do you mean by lesson?" "Just scared them a bit with my boot," Ray said, taking a big bite of bacon. "No big deal. They're just dogs." Sally shook her head as she walked away. She had never liked Ray's idea of fun. Ray ate his breakfast, paid his bill, and headed to his job at Big Mike's bar. He worked there 5 nights a week as a bartender. The bar was empty when he arrived, as it was still morning. Big Mike was counting bottles behind the counter. "You're early," Big Mike said, looking up. "Thought I'd help set up," Ray answered, though the truth was he had nothing better to do. "Busy night ahead." "Should be," Big Mike replied. "Got a call from someone wanting to reserve the back table for tonight." Sounded important. Ray nodded, not really interested. He started cleaning glasses and getting the bar ready for opening. Back at his beach house, Jason Statham was getting information. His friend Tom called back with details. "The bike belongs to a Ray Hunter," Tom said. "Works at a place called Big Mike's Bar on the edge of town. Has a record of small fights and disturbing the peace. Nothing major, but not a nice guy." "Big Mike's Bar," Jason repeated, writing it down. "And he'll be there tonight. Starts his shift at 6 p.m., according to his boss." Jason thanked Tom and hung up. His security team had arrived, and he filled them in on his plan. "I don't want anyone hurt," Jason explained. "I just want to teach this man a lesson he won't forget." The security men nodded. They had worked with Jason long enough to know he was fair but firm. He wasn't the violent characters he played in movies, but he didn't let people walk all over him either. Jason spent the rest of the day with his dogs, making sure they felt safe and loved. As evening approached, he got ready to go out. He chose plain clothes, jeans, a black t-shirt, and a baseball cap. He didn't want to be recognized right away. At 8 p.m., Jason and his security team got into their black SUV and headed toward Big Mike's Bar. Jason's face was calm, but his eyes were determined. "Let's see if Ray Hunter still thinks hurting dogs is funny," Jason said as they drove through the darkening streets. Inside Big Mike's Bar, Ray was serving drinks and telling jokes, completely unaware that his past actions were about to catch up with him. Big Mike's Bar was not a fancy place. It had old wooden tables, dim lights, and a long bar counter with scratched stools. Country music played from speakers in the corners. The walls were covered with signs about beer and pictures of motorcycles. It was a place where locals came to drink cheap beer and tell loud stories. By 9 p.m., the bar was half full. Ray Hunter moved behind the counter, pouring drinks and laughing with customers. He was in a good mood. He told the story about kicking the dogs to a group of men at the bar. "You should have seen them jump." Ray laughed, making the kicking motion with his foot. The fancy dogs ran away like scared babies. Some men laughed, but others looked uncomfortable. One man named Bill spoke up. "Not cool, Ray. Dogs don't deserve that." Ray rolled his eyes. "It was just a joke. Don't be so serious." The front door opened, letting in cool night air. 2 large men in black jackets walked in first, looking around carefully. They took seats at different tables, watching the room. Then a third man walked in. He wore simple clothes and a cap pulled low over his eyes. The third man sat at the corner of the bar, away from the others. When Ray came over to take his order, the man kept his head down. "Just water, please," he said in a quiet voice. Ray gave him a quick look but didn't really see his face. He put a glass of water on the counter and moved away to serve other customers. Ray didn't notice how the man watched his every move. For the next hour, the man in the cap sat quietly, drinking his water and listening. Ray kept telling his dog-kicking story to anyone who would listen. Each time he told it, the story got bigger. Now he was saying he had kicked both dogs and made them cry. Those rich people and their fancy pets need to learn, Ray boasted. The owner probably paid thousands for those dogs. Should have kept them on leashes. The quiet man in the corner listened to everything. His hands tightened around his water glass, but his face stayed calm. The two large men who had come in with him kept watching, ready to step in if needed. As the night went on, customers started to leave. By midnight, only a few people remained in the bar. Big Mike came out from the back room and spoke to Ray. "Time to start closing up," Mike said. "I'm heading home early tonight. You can lock up when everyone's gone." Ray nodded. "No problem, boss." After Mike left, Ray started cleaning glasses. He called out to the few remaining customers. "Last call, people. Drink up and head out." The two large men finished their drinks but stayed seated. The quiet man in the corner remained where he was, still nursing the same glass of water. Ray finally noticed him. "Hey buddy, we're closing soon," Ray called out. "You need to finish up." The man slowly stood up and walked toward the bar. As he got closer, he removed his cap. Ray's mouth fell open in shock. He recognized the bald head, the strong jaw, and the intense eyes that had stared at millions of movie fans from cinema screens around the world. You're... Ray couldn't finish his sentence. "Jason Statham," the man said calmly. "The owner of those fancy dogs you kicked today." Ray's face turned white. His hand started to shake so badly that he almost dropped the glass he was cleaning. The bar suddenly seemed very quiet and very small. "Those were your dogs?" Ray's voice came out as a whisper. Jason nodded, his eyes never leaving Ray's face. "Those were my dogs. My family." Ray looked toward the door, but the two large men had moved to block it. There was nowhere to run. Ray Hunter was about to learn that some jokes aren't funny at all, and some actions have serious consequences. Jason leaned against the bar and looked at Ray with serious eyes. "Option 2 means you keep your job here," Jason said. "But you'll also work at the Happy Paws Animal Shelter every Saturday and Sunday for the next 6 months." Ray's eyes widened. "The animal shelter? Doing what?" "Whatever they need," Jason replied firmly. "Cleaning cages, walking dogs, giving baths, picking up poop. The hard work that most people don't want to do." Ray looked down at his hands. Working with animals had never been something he wanted to do. He didn't even like pets, but he needed this job. "And if I do this, I can keep working here?" Ray asked. Jason nodded. "Yes, but there's more." Of course there was more, Ray thought. "First, no more jokes that hurt others," Jason continued. "Not people, not animals. Second, you'll need to take a class on animal care. I'll pay for it. Third, you'll report to me every week on what you learned at the shelter." Ray felt trapped. This was a lot to ask. But looking at Jason's face, he knew he had no real choice. "Okay," Ray said. "I'll do it." "Good," Jason said. "You start at the shelter this Saturday at 8 a.m. Be on time." Ray nodded, still not quite believing what was happening. Jason Statham, movie star, was now his boss and sending him to work at an animal shelter. Jason pulled out his phone and made a quick call. "We're done here," he said to someone. "Meet me out front." He put his phone away and gave Ray one last look. "One more thing," Jason said. "I'll be bringing Max and Buddy to the bar sometimes. If I ever see you even look at them wrong, our deal is off." Ray quickly nodded. "I understand. It won't happen." Jason walked toward the door where his security men waited. Before leaving, he turned back. "People can change, Ray. I've seen it happen, but only if they want to." With that, Jason and his men left the bar. Ray sat alone in the sudden silence, thinking about everything that had just happened. The next morning, Ray woke up early. He usually slept until noon, but today he couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the animal shelter and what working there would be like. The idea made him uncomfortable. At work that evening, things felt different. Big Mike told everyone that he had sold the bar but would stay on for a month to help with the change. He didn't say who the new owner was, and Ray kept quiet about it. Ray will be working weekends at the Happy Paws shelter, Big Mike announced to the staff. So we'll need someone to cover his weekend shifts. The other workers looked surprised. Ray Hunter working at an animal shelter. The idea seemed crazy. Lost a bet? One of the other bartenders asked Ray with a laugh. Something like that, Ray answered, not wanting to explain. That night, Ray went home and looked up the Happy Paws Animal Shelter online. Their website showed pictures of dogs and cats waiting for homes. Some looked sad and scared. Others looked hopeful. Ray had never really looked at animals this way before. One picture caught his eye. It was a dog that looked a bit like Jason's dog Max. The description said the dog had been rescued from a bad situation and was afraid of loud noises and sudden movements. For the first time, Ray thought about how his joke must have felt to Jason's dogs, how it might have scared them, how it might have brought back bad memories for Max. What kind of person does that? Ray whispered to himself. The question bothered him all night. When Saturday morning came, Ray got dressed and headed to Happy Paws Animal Shelter. He was nervous, but a small part of him was also curious. What would this place be like? What would the animals be like? As he parked his motorcycle outside the shelter, Ray had no idea how much this place would change him. Ray's hand shook as he put down the glass he was cleaning. His mind raced to find a way out of this situation. The bar felt smaller by the second. Look, Mr. Statham, it was just a joke, Ray said, trying to smile. I didn't hurt your dogs. I barely touched them. Jason Statham's face didn't change. He kept his eyes on Ray, not blinking, not smiling. Sit down, Jason said, pointing to a bar stool. It wasn't a request. It was an order. Ray quickly sat down, his legs feeling weak. Jason nodded to his security men. Make sure no one comes in. I want to talk to Ray alone. The two big men moved to the door and stood guard. Now it was just Ray and Jason at the bar. Jason pulled out his phone. He opened a photo app and showed the screen to Ray. These are my dogs, Jason said. Max and Buddy. The screen showed two happy golden retrievers playing on a beach. They looked friendly and full of joy. Max is 7 years old, Jason continued, his voice low and controlled. I found him at a shelter 4 years ago. Someone had beaten him and left him on the street. It took me 6 months to get him to trust people again. Jason swiped to another picture. This one showed the dogs sleeping on a large dog bed. Buddy is 5. His first owner died, and the family didn't want him. He was afraid to be alone when I got him. Now they sleep together like this every night. Ray nodded nervously. They seem like great dogs. They are, Jason said, putting his phone away. They are loyal, loving, and they never hurt anyone. Unlike you. Ray swallowed hard. He didn't know what to say. I heard you in here tonight, Jason continued, laughing about kicking my dogs, making the story bigger each time, thinking it was funny to cause pain to animals who never did anything to you. Jason leaned closer. Let me ask you something, Ray. Why? Why would you do that? Ray struggled to find an answer. The truth was, he didn't know why. He just did things without thinking. I don't know, Ray finally said, looking down at his hands. I thought it would be funny. I didn't think about how they would feel. That's the problem, Jason said. You didn't think. Jason stood up and walked behind the bar. He picked up a clean glass and poured some water. He took a sip, looking around at the bar. Nice place, he said. How long have you worked here? 5 years, Ray answered, confused by the change in topic. You like it here? It pays the bills, Ray said. Jason nodded. I talked to Big Mike today. Nice man. Interesting fact, he wants to sell this place. Says he's getting too old to run a bar. Ray looked up in surprise. This was the first he'd heard about it. I'm buying it, Jason said simply. Ray's mouth fell open. You're what? I'm buying Big Mike's bar, Jason repeated. The papers will be signed tomorrow. Which means, starting tomorrow, I'm your boss. Ray couldn't believe what he was hearing. Jason Statham was going to be his boss. After what he had done. Are you going to fire me? Ray asked, his voice small. Jason took another sip of water. That depends on you, Ray. On me? Yes, Jason said. I don't believe people can't change. I think even someone who would kick a dog for fun can learn to be better. But it takes work. Hard work. Jason put down his glass and looked directly at Ray. So here's what's going to happen. You have a choice to make right now. Ray waited, barely breathing. Option 1, Jason said, holding up one finger. You quit. Walk out that door and never come back. Find a new job somewhere else. He held up a second finger. Option 2, you keep your job, but with some new responsibilities. And you show me that you can change. Ray didn't hesitate. Option 2, please. Jason nodded slowly. I thought you might say that. Let me tell you what option 2 means. Happy Paws Animal Shelter was a simple building with a blue roof. A big sign with paw prints welcomed visitors. As Ray walked to the door, he heard dogs barking inside. He almost turned around and left, but he remembered Jason Statham's serious face and kept walking. Inside, a young woman with curly hair sat at a desk. She looked up when Ray entered. Can I help you? She asked with a smile. I'm Ray Hunter, he said, feeling out of place in his leather jacket. I'm supposed to start volunteer work today. The woman checked a list on her computer. Oh yes, Mr. Statham called about you. She looked at Ray with curious eyes. I'm Lisa, the shelter manager. Lisa stood up and waved for Ray to follow her. Let me show you around and explain what you'll be doing. Ray followed Lisa through a door into a large room with rows of dog cages. The noise was much louder here, barking, whining, and the sound of paws scratching on metal doors. We have 32 dogs right now, Lisa explained. Each one needs their cage cleaned every day. They need fresh water, food, exercise, and some attention. Ray looked at the dogs as they walked past. Some ran to the front of their cages, tails wagging. Others stayed back, watching with careful eyes. These 3 came in last night, Lisa said, stopping at cages with very small dogs. Someone left them in a box outside a grocery store. Ray looked at the tiny puppies. They were skinny and dirty, but their tails wagged when they saw people. Who would do that? Ray asked without thinking. Lisa shrugged. People who don't care. People who think animals don't have feelings. Ray felt uncomfortable. Wasn't he that kind of person? Today you'll start with cleaning cages, Lisa said, leading him to a supply closet. She showed him the cleaning supplies, how to use them, and what to do. Start with these first 10 cages, she instructed. Take each dog out one at a time. Put them in the play area. Clean their cage. Refill water and food. Then put them back and move to the next one. Ray nodded, looking at the cleaning supplies. This wasn't going to be fun. Any questions? Lisa asked. Yeah, Ray said. How do I take the dogs out? Won't they run away or bite me? Lisa smiled a little. Most of them are friendly. I'll show you how to use a leash properly. The few that might be difficult, I'll help you with. For the next hour, Lisa showed Ray how to approach the dogs, how to put on a leash, and how to clean properly. Then she left him to work on his own. The first dog was easy. A friendly brown dog named Charlie who seemed happy to see anyone. Ray carefully put the leash on and led Charlie to the play area. As he cleaned the cage, he could see Charlie watching him through the fence. When Ray finished and brought Charlie back, the dog licked his hand. The simple act of kindness from the animal surprised Ray. The second dog was harder, a nervous black dog who stayed at the back of the cage. Ray had to move slowly and talk softly, the way Lisa had shown him. It took 10 minutes just to get the leash on, but Ray felt strangely proud when he finally succeeded. By lunchtime, Ray had cleaned 6 cages. His back hurt, his hands were dirty, and he smelled like dog food and cleaning spray. But he had learned each dog's name, and he was getting better at handling them. "Good job this morning," Lisa said when she checked his work. "You're learning quickly." Ray was surprised by how good her words made him feel. He wasn't used to getting compliments. After lunch, Lisa had a new task for him. "This is Rusty," she said, leading him to a cage with a golden retriever mix that looked a lot like Jason's dog's. "He's afraid of men, especially men in dark clothes." Ray looked down at his black t-shirt and jeans. "Would you sit near his cage for a while and just talk to him softly?" Lisa asked. "He needs to learn that not all men are scary." Ray nodded and sat on a stool near Rusty's cage. The dog watched him with frightened eyes from the back corner. "Hey, Rusty," Ray said awkwardly. "I'm Ray. I guess we both need to learn some things." 2 months passed. Ray kept working at the bar on weeknights and at the animal shelter on weekends. At first, it was just something he had to do to keep his job. But slowly, things began to change. Ray started looking forward to seeing the dogs at the shelter. He learned all their names and their stories. He knew which ones liked belly rubs and which ones preferred to play fetch. He knew which ones needed extra time and patience. Rusty, the golden retriever who had been afraid of men, was making progress. After 3 weeks of Ray sitting near his cage and talking softly, Rusty had finally come forward to sniff Ray's hand. By the 6th week, Rusty would let Ray put a leash on him and take him for walks. "You have a gift," Lisa told Ray one Saturday. "The scared ones trust you." Ray shook his head. "I'm just patient with them." "That's the gift," Lisa said with a smile. At the bar, things were changing too. Jason Statham had made improvements to the place. He had fixed the leaky roof, bought new chairs, and upgraded the sound system. He had also put up pictures of dogs and cats that needed homes. Once a month, Jason came to check on the bar and to hear Ray's report about the shelter. At first, these meetings were uncomfortable. Ray would tell Jason what he had done at the shelter, and Jason would listen quietly, his face showing nothing. But by the 3rd month, their meetings had become easier. Ray had real things to share: how he had helped a scared dog learn to trust again, how he had taught a young dog to sit and stay, how good it felt when a dog he had cared for was adopted by a loving family. "Next month, we're starting Adoption Sundays here at the bar," Jason announced one evening after hearing Ray's report. "Once a month, we'll bring some dogs from Happy Paws. People can meet them and maybe give them homes." "Here at the bar?" Ray asked, surprised. Jason nodded. "It was Lisa's idea. She says you mentioned it might work." Ray remembered telling Lisa how many of the bar customers talked about wanting dogs, but never went to the shelter. He hadn't thought anyone would take his idea seriously. "I think it's a good plan," Ray said. "We could put up pictures of the dogs coming that week, get people excited to meet them." Jason looked at Ray with new respect. "That's a good idea. You should organize it." "Me?" Ray was shocked. "Yes, you," Jason said. "You know both places now. You know which dogs would do well here and which customers might make good owners." Ray felt proud. For the first time in his life, someone was trusting him with something important. The next day at the shelter, Ray told Lisa about the plan. She was excited and immediately started listing which dogs might be good candidates for the bar event. "Rusty should definitely come," Lisa said. "He's doing so well with you now." Ray nodded, thinking about how far Rusty had come from the scared dog hiding in the back of his cage. "He reminds me of Jason's dog Max," Ray admitted. "Jason told me Max was abused before he adopted him." Lisa looked at Ray closely. "It's amazing how animals can learn to trust again, isn't it?" even after people have been cruel to them. Ray nodded, feeling a lump in his throat. He thought about how he had kicked Jason's dogs as a joke, never thinking about their feelings or their past. "Do you think people can change too?" Ray asked quietly. Lisa smiled gently. "I'm looking at proof right now." That evening, Ray sat alone in his small apartment. On his coffee table was a book about dog training that Lisa had lent him. Next to it was a photograph of Ray with Rusty that one of the shelter volunteers had taken. In the picture, Rusty was leaning against Ray's leg, looking up at him with trusting eyes. Ray touched the photo lightly. "People can change," he whispered to himself. "I'm changing." The first adoption Sunday at the bar was a big success. Ray had worked hard to get everything ready. He put up posters, told regular customers about the event, and even cleaned the back area of the bar to make a safe space for the dogs. 5 dogs from Happy Paws came to the bar that Sunday afternoon. Lisa brought them in special crates, and Ray helped set up a small play area with gates. Rusty was one of the dogs, and he stayed close to Ray the whole time. Many people came to see the dogs. Some were regular bar customers. Others had seen the posters around town. One family with 2 small children fell in love with a small brown dog named Pepper. By the end of the day, 3 of the 5 dogs had new homes. "This was your idea," Jason said to Ray as they watched Lisa help the family fill out papers to adopt Pepper. "You should be proud." Ray nodded, feeling a strange mix of happiness and sadness. He was happy the dogs found homes, but sad to see them go. "Rusty didn't get adopted," Ray said, looking at the golden retriever who was now sleeping in a corner, tired from all the excitement. "Not everyone sees what's special about him," Jason replied. "But the right person will come along." Ray nodded, thinking about how much Rusty had changed in the past months, just like Ray himself had changed. The next day, Ray rode his motorcycle to work at the bar. It was the same bike he had been riding when he kicked Jason's dogs. But Ray was not the same man. He no longer looked for ways to cause trouble. He no longer thought it was funny to scare animals or people. As Ray parked his bike, he saw Jason's car in the lot. It was unusual for Jason to be at the bar on a Monday. Ray wondered if something was wrong. Inside, Jason was sitting at a table with 2 people Ray didn't know. One was an older woman with kind eyes. The other was a man in a suit. "Ray, come join us," Jason called when he saw Ray enter. Ray walked over, feeling nervous. "Is everything okay?" "Everything is great," Jason said with a smile. "Ray, this is Mrs. Peterson from the City Council and Mr. Banks from the Community Business Association." Ray shook their hands, confused about why they wanted to meet him. "We were very impressed with your Adoption Sunday event," Mrs. Peterson said. "The city has been looking for ways to help our local animal shelters, and businesses that give back to the community are exactly what we want to support," Mr. Banks added. Jason smiled at Ray's confused face. "They want to make Adoption Sunday a bigger event. Multiple businesses, not just our bar. They're asking if you would help organize it." Ray was shocked. "Me? But I'm just a bartender." "You're also the person who came up with a great idea and made it work," Jason said. "You know the shelter. You know what the dogs need. You're the right person for this." Mrs. Peterson nodded. "We were hoping you might be interested in helping us. It would be a part-time job, with pay." Ray couldn't believe what he was hearing. These important people wanted his help. They thought he had something valuable to offer. I don't know what to say," Ray stammered. "Say yes," Jason encouraged. "Your 6 months of volunteer work are almost up anyway. This could be your next step." Ray looked at Jason, understanding what he was saying. Jason had forced Ray to work at the shelter as punishment. But now Ray had a chance to keep working with animals because he wanted to, because he was good at it. "Yes," Ray said firmly. "I would love to help." After the meeting, when Mrs. Peterson and Mr. Banks had left, Ray turned to Jason. "Why did you do this for me?" Ray asked. "After what I did to your dogs." Jason leaned back in his chair, 6 months ago, I wanted to teach you a lesson. I wanted you to understand that your actions have consequences. Jason looked at Ray with serious eyes. But what I've seen is something I didn't expect. I've seen you learn the lesson and then go beyond it. You found something you care about. You found a way to make things better, not just for my dogs, but for many animals. Ray felt a lump in his throat. Thank you for giving me the chance. Jason smiled. There's one more thing I want to discuss with you. Jason Statham looked at Ray with a small smile. It's about Rusty, he said. Ray sat up straighter. What about him? Is he okay? He's fine, Jason assured him. But he's been at the shelter for 4 months now. Lisa says he's a different dog because of you, but he still gets nervous around new people. Ray nodded. He knew this was true. Rusty had made great progress but still had fear issues. Dogs like Rusty, Jason continued, the ones with fear problems, they often have trouble finding homes. Most people want a dog that's friendly right away. Ray felt sad hearing this. He knew Rusty deserved a good home. I was thinking, Jason said, that Rusty might do better in a home with someone he already trusts. Ray looked at Jason with confusion, then sudden understanding. You mean me? You think I should adopt Rusty? Jason nodded. I've seen how you are with him. He trusts you. And your apartment building allows pets. I checked. Ray's mind raced. Him, adopt a dog. 6 months ago, he would have laughed at the idea. But now, I don't know, Ray said honestly. I've never had a pet before. What if I'm not good at it? Jason laughed. Ray, you're already good at it. You've been taking care of Rusty for months. But that's at the shelter, with Lisa there to help, Ray argued. You wouldn't be alone, Jason promised. Lisa would still be there to answer questions, and I know a thing or two about dogs with fear issues, remember? Ray thought about his small apartment. It wasn't much, but it had a little yard, and he could take Rusty for walks in the park nearby. Can I think about it? Ray asked. Jason nodded. Of course, but don't think too long. That dog is waiting for a home. The next day, Ray went to the shelter earlier than usual. Rusty was in his cage, and his tail started wagging as soon as he saw Ray. Hey buddy, Ray said softly, opening the cage door. Rusty came right to him, pressing against his legs. Lisa saw them and walked over. You're early today, she said with a smile. I wanted to talk to you about Rusty, Ray said. Jason suggested that I might adopt him. Lisa's face lit up. That's a wonderful idea. You two already have such a strong bond. But I've never had a dog before, Ray admitted. I'm not sure if I know how to take care of one properly. Lisa put her hand on Ray's arm. Ray, you've learned more about dog care in 6 months than some people learn in years, and you have a special connection with Rusty. Ray looked down at the golden retriever, who was looking up at him with trusting eyes. Could he really do this? Could he be responsible for another life? Let me show you something, Lisa said, leading Ray to her office. She opened a file on her computer. This is Rusty the day he came to us. The picture showed a skinny, frightened dog with dull fur and sad eyes. And this is Rusty last week, Lisa said, showing another picture. This one showed a healthy, alert dog with bright eyes and shiny fur. The picture had been taken while Ray was playing with him in the yard. You did that, Lisa said simply. You helped him heal. Ray felt something warm in his chest. Pride, but also something else. Love, maybe. Okay, Ray said. I'll do it. I'll adopt him. 2 weeks later, Ray stood in his apartment, watching Rusty explore his new home. The golden retriever sniffed every corner, then settled on the new dog bed Ray had bought. Ray's phone buzzed with a text message from Jason. How's it going with your new roommate? Ray smiled and took a picture of Rusty, now happily chewing on a toy. He sent the picture with the message. We're both learning, but it feels right. That evening, Ray took Rusty for a walk in the park. As they walked past the spot where Ray had once kicked Jason's dogs as a joke, Ray felt like he was seeing his old self from far away. That person seemed like a stranger now. "Come on, boy," he said gently to Rusty. "Let's go home." As they walked side by side, Ray thought about how one bad decision had led to the biggest change in his life. How one moment of cruelty had set him on a path to becoming a better person. And how one scared dog had taught him what it meant to be trusted. Sometimes, Ray knew, the worst mistakes can lead to the best changes. If you're willing to learn and grow. If you're brave enough to become better than you were.